Everybody, my name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here today on Partner Talks with Jay McBain. Jay, introduce yourself and tell people what you do.
All right, well, thanks so much for having me back. Jay McBain, Principal Analyst for Partnerships, Channels, Ecosystems at Forrester Research.
Okay, great. Now, I know, Jay, you're like the guru out there, and we talk about channels. And I'm particularly interested in the Microsoft channel and what's going on. But let's have some sort of insights and sort of comments on what you've seen in the Microsoft channel over the last year.
Yeah, it was a busy year for Microsoft. They made a couple of interesting announcements. One is that they were recruiting 300 to 400 new partners every single day. So we're starting to see this world now where Microsoft customers are becoming partners as every company becomes a tech company, as they're consuming Microsoft technology and co-innovating and creating value together. We're seeing that. I think about 80% of those 400 per day are non-transacting partners. So this is not a CSP or LSP conversation anymore, but where do they fit in that value chain? Early in that customer journey, at the point of transaction, or is it every 30 days forever in a subscription model? Obviously, the builders, the DevOps, the alliances, there's just so much going on from a Microsoft perspective.
If we start to look at it, there's almost like this consultant group that are coming into the space now, because it's not so much as your technical skills that make you a great partner. It's your ability to tie all this technology together to make a business run.
Yeah, and I've worked with Microsoft for close to 30 years, as a big partner like IBM and Lenovo and others. And Microsoft for all of those years would talk about 90% plus of its business was sourced via the channel. And in the last year, you've seen some sleight of hand where they now only talk about partner assisted. And so a couple of things, have reached the press where, somewhere around 30% of Azure is sourced in that old way. And there's more direct activity. There's obviously more marketplace activity and other things. And Microsoft is looking at the broader view of partners now, where the role of money changing hands is one element of value, but it's partner assisted, which they reported as 96% of every Microsoft dollar is partner assisted, and that's the language they're using now. And this is important. So regardless of how the customer ends up spending their money, through a partner, through a marketplace, through direct, it doesn't matter. It's what Microsoft reported earlier this year, trillions of dollars of opportunity that every dollar of Microsoft triggers. Almost anywhere between $5 and $10 of additional ecosystem opportunity comes from every dollar of Microsoft, whether that's Dynamics, whether that's 365 or Teams, whether that's Azure, all the different elements of Microsoft. We've actually worked with them on every product to get it down to the decimal point of amplification that each dollar comes with.
And I think you're making a good point, because I spend my time mostly working in the ISV channels within Dynamics, and the businesses are very different today than 20 years ago when I was an active partner. We don't make a lot of money off of licenses anymore, but we're bringing in people with different skill sets. And when I talk to the partners, they're busier than they've ever been.
Yeah, I spent this year counting up how many opportunities on top of Dynamics that an ISV could write software for in that last mile. I came up with 35 million permutations of where you could build a business today. And today there's 175,000 ISVs or SaaS companies in the world. I predicted there's going to be 1 million, but I'm also seeing where the next 825,000 companies that you and I could go and form this weekend, to go take advantage of that ecosystem opportunity, that trillions of dollars that Microsoft kicks out.
So it's really interesting when you talk about that, because it's not just building more functionality onto a product to give it some more function, but really, how can I take my intellectual IP as a supply chain expert and build a product, or build my IP into a product and add it to F&O or Business Central?
Yeah, so Microsoft's getting smarter in their partner program as well. It's difficult for any company, and we look at 35,000 different companies selling through the channel. It's difficult to attribute behaviors or things that are value add without directly measuring dollars. things that are more quantitative. But with new levels of attribution, new levels of data sharing, Microsoft is recognizing ISVs that help them get the customer to the dance. They're recognizing ISVs that do the transaction or walk a customer into the marketplace or direct. They're recognizing ISVs, and this is where the real important thing is, every 30 days forever. When that ISV is driving better adoption of Microsoft technology, they're looking to pay for that more so than in the past. When an ISV is diving into deeper integrations and APIs and SDKs, that stickiness factor, Microsoft is starting to measure that inside of Dynamics now and understanding the value that ISV brings on retention. Microsoft is looked at now with their valuation more like Netflix. You know, how many subscribers, how many new subscribers, what's the churn rate? And ISVs are square in the middle of that in terms of driving that long-term value. And then the upsell, the cross-sell, new innovation, enrichment, all this other stuff that's going on is fascinating to Microsoft. And they're really figuring from that early stage of the customer journey, the 28 digital moments they go through before choosing Microsoft and ISVs on top of each other, which today they're on average 7 different layers to each solution, then through the transaction, and then through every 30 days. This thing doesn't ever stop. And so they're starting to spread around the opportunity. And it's not just about the resell part of it anymore. You can make money almost anywhere during those customer moments.
So it's interesting you said that, because we look at how they changed their partner program in 2021, where they were looking for a 10 to 20% commission from an ISV to resell on their stack. And they kind of, washed that away and said, it's okay, we're only going to take 3% now. Because I think they recognize having more ISVs in the space is better. And of course, like you said, it makes their product stickier.
Yeah, and that forced, on the one side, it forced AWS and Google to kind of fast follow 30 days later. But it's interesting, in the more Dynamics world, you've got the Salesforces of the world, you've got the HubSpots of the world. They're doing a couple of things. One is that their marketplace taxation is still around 15. So that's going to shake out in 2022, what the number should be. Microsoft has declared that a marketplace transaction should look more like a credit card swipe, that 3%, which is great for everybody. It's great for ISVs. It's great for partners of all types. It's not a big hit to your SG&A or your cost to acquire a customer at this point to pay out a higher taxation. The interesting thing, though, is if I look at competitors, Salesforce did a couple things. One is that they're recruiting 250,000 partners. They recognize that Microsoft has twice that amount. They recognize how many new partners are coming into Microsoft every day. And they recognize in those early moments, those late moments, what kind of enterprise army they're going to have to compete in that space. But at the same time, they shut down their resale program. They took the value of selling Salesforce to zero. And they said that all deals should go through the App Exchange. And they've provided enough value out to the street. They were the first to talk about this multiplier number. HubSpot did a fast follow. They shut down the resale element. And they went all into this other, which at HubSpot, it's $5.80 for every dollar of HubSpot, available to ISVs, available to system integrators, consultants, and 16 other circles on my kind of global channel map. But Microsoft's in this space in Dynamics, and watching what their competitors did in 2021 is interesting to kind of predict where this decade is going.
So this is the first PartnerTalks for 2022. So, if I'm a Microsoft partner, any predictions for what do you see coming in our channel?
Yeah, so many changes, so many business model changes, not only at our own companies, but at Microsoft. And, everything is all in subscription consumption, usage-based, value-based. Looking at the increase in Zoom, for example, as a product-led growth company. While they don't have direct sales, direct marketing, and channels like we would have saw them in the past, they're still recruiting 120,000 partners because they understand that. And that's competing against Microsoft Teams. So all of these different elements, these multipliers that I talked about, these subscription models, the rise of marketplaces, which I think will be 1/3 of Microsoft sales by the end of the decade. I think the $7 trillion tech market that we'll be in by the end of the decade, which is double where it is today, will be 1/3 marketplace. And how we participate as ISVs in the marketplace, not only getting a listing, but getting on page 1 of that result for your particular customer you're trying to win. That's in Microsoft SEO now instead of Google SEO. And now number 3 is, how do I participate in the Microsoft community? You see all these logos, on my wall, and the whole point is that there's 59 magazines I published this year on my blog, 143 social groups, 100 podcasts. There's actually 14 different spheres of influence. I could list off big numbers across 14 different places that Microsoft professionals hang out, the watering holes, who are the super connectors. And if I'm going to be that ISV that's going to be successful in Microsoft, earn a spot on that 7-layer cake that the customer's looking to bake, there's a whole new world of community management inside of this part of the ecosystem. Doing the digital work necessary to beat out that SEO and get on page 1, because that algorithm is refining itself, every other day. And so as an ISV, it's not as simple as it used to be when there was a couple hundred or a couple thousand people on the marketplace. As tens of thousands of people are going to enter the marketplace into 2022 and beyond, our world is getting more complex in terms of how we market ourselves and, how we brand ourselves, and obviously how we get other people to be ushering us into these watering holes and these conversations that impact, our clients, our prospects.
And that's a good point you made, because 10 years ago, there was 200 business application partners that you really had to know if you were an ISV. Today, there's at least 5,000, right? And like you said, it's growing all the time. So, your ability to get your content out there as a partner and actually market yourself is going to become even more important in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's 35 million permutations. There's 35 million potential intersections in the market that you can go and win. And the rules of the game are quickly changing in front of us, from hiring more salespeople and running more marketing campaigns. The world's changing, and those ISVs that can figure that calculus out, get out the decoder ring, and figure out what others are doing to be successful. That's what I would be spending time on early in 2022.
I think the world's their oyster. They just got to figure out where to find it.
There's trillions of dollars of oysters out there,
Yeah.
and all of us just need to figure out how we're going to go fishing.
Okay, Jay, it's always a pleasure talking to you about channel and about what you're seeing out there in the world of Microsoft. So we'll be back to you at some point to get some more insights. But thanks for your time today.
All right, thank you for having me.